Let's go to something a little more interesting.
Wait, hang on. I'm sorry. Wait, why is this so boring? Like, why is it? Am I just biased? Like, am I just poisoned by team? Like, this just isn't interesting to me.
Her council, it's not the best, okay? They don't send their best to Dragonstone, okay? Some of them are good people, but not all of them.
Adam.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Vassals of Kingsgrave for DragonCast, House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 5, shortly titled Regent. My name is Adam. I'm also known as drownedsnow on the Discord and the forums, if they maybe still exist and aren't giving us viruses. I'm joined today by a number of loyal dragons, loyal to the cause, but first and foremost, you may be aware that there is a Black Council, a Blackfyre Council, that has taken up claim to the throne and has tried to usurp DragonCast. We will not be dissuaded. They must return our sacred sword of Blackfyre. It's not theirs. It's ours. It's the best sword. We own it. It's cool. It's fine. But, my spies over there are doing good work. They're doing good work sitting with the Blackfyres, feeding me information. And I'm just really happy about that. I think everything's going great. And all loyal dragons are welcome on DragonCast at any time. Just bend the knee. That's all. So just, bend the knee. So speaking of loyal dragons, I'm going to introduce them now. And here I have Casey.
Hey, this is Casey, Blue-Eyed Queen.
Duncan.
G'day, this is Duncan, also known as Valkyrist on the Discord.
Jucio.
Hi, my name is Ben. I go by Jucio.
Michal.
Hey, I'm Michal. I have been inkasrain.
And Katie.
This is Katie, formerly Lady Griffin on the forums, Saharan on the Discord.
Yes, and as we meet for this the true council of Targaryen dragons, I'm glad to see all of my loyal dragons here. It's great to see you, and I'd love to know what your lemon cakes are. What are we going to give this episode? I don't know. Let's go in the same order. Casey, what do you think?
I'm gonna give it 4 moms out of 5. I think this is a very mom episode.
Fuck you for stealing what was going to be my joke. God damn it!
I was trying not to get directly into incest cast because I think you have to have like 120 seconds or something, or 5 minutes on YouTube, or else you have to rate yourself as kind of sketchy. So hey, we blew that out of the water. All right, Duncan.
I would give it 3.5 mums. I liked many of the scenes in the episode, but overall it felt like it was less than the sum of its parts. I think my favorite episodes of the show, I feel, are self-contained, like they can work as a story in their own right. They have a beginning, middle, and end. Whereas this felt like another setting up episode. In fact, it almost reminded me a bit of some of the weaker episodes of Game of Thrones, where Game of Thrones kind of got into this pattern of rotating from location to location, and it would sort of gradually, push each piece forward, but they never really seemed to arrive anywhere. And I get that it's necessary for the plot and the themes, but I'm getting really frustrated by how sidelined Alicent and Rhaenyra have become. It's supposed to be the princess and the queen. I mean, I know they're stuck within a certain historical narrative, but it just feels like I really want them to be able to do more or have more of an active role. But that aside, the acting and the filmmaking continues to be phenomenal. The Harrenhal stuff is wild, and I really love it. There hasn't been nearly enough scenes with Corlys, but the scene with him and Rhaenyra I thought was fantastic. And overall, I just love how complex and deep the world feels, and the fact that an event will happen and we see how it affects everyone everywhere from the small folk on up. So overall pretty good.
All right, awesome. Juicio.
I'll give it 3.7 Blackwood war crimes out of 5. It was pretty good. I want to echo a lot of the things that Duncan said about how pacing it felt a little off generally. It was giving that like season 5 Game of Thrones energy at times in terms of pacing, and I didn't love that, but there were some like pretty gorgeous shots as always. The phrase going to the twins and seeing the phrase again. That better not be Sabbatha and Forest. If it is, it's pretty awful. But otherwise, awesome. Either way, I am torn a lot. I really loved the ending of this episode, but I did feel like a lot of it was pretty mid overall. But yeah.
All right, way to drop the buzzwords for our Gen Z audience. Michal?
I was bored while I watched this. And I was really looking forward to the episode. I think what I came to in the end is like between 2.5 and 3.5 inevitable Viserys masks restored to his son. Yeah, I thought it was largely kind of dull. Everything on Dragonstone like literally puts me to sleep. But the greens remain very interesting, and I could not love the way Alicent and Kristen Cole are going anymore. I think that's literally perfect. So
Katie.
I will give it a 2 out of 5. I agree with Michal. It honestly felt like there was some editing flabbiness in this episode. Like everything that I was watching, I was enjoying, but I was like, if every scene was just like 10% shorter, there would be a sense of momentum that was lacking. Like everything just felt like so lugubrious and just like taking its time when it didn't need to take its time. I got on my laptop in like the last 30 minutes. That's the other thing. This episode was very long. And I definitely got on Twitter towards the end of it. Damon and Harrenhal is frustrating me. I should be eating it up. I was really excited about the dream stuff at the beginning of the season. It's starting to remind me about Dany and Karth in the second season of Game of Thrones, where like it was a lot of just stalling and padding because she didn't really have an arc that season, and Damon doesn't have anything to do, and so like there's some interesting stuff going on with him, but it's kind of it's wearying me. I don't understand what his arc is going to be, if he even has one this season. It's just like they didn't have any material for Matt Smith, and so they had him chopping wood, which was bullshit. I'm sorry, like the king consort or the king, whatever he wants to be called, he's not going to be out there chopping wood with the lads. That's
I don't know. He's got to refill the coffers of Harrenhal somehow.
Yeah.
It was like when they had Alicent like rocking her own crying baby in the first season. It's like, no, this is not the queen's job.
Yeah, the Damon stuff is, I don't know. It went very quickly from like, oh yeah, man, we're getting Harrenhal shit to like, oh, like I think the consensus with this episode is, as you just said, like, oh, they're filling time. We could just not see Damon for a while. That would probably be working. Yeah, I don't know. I don't love it. Yeah, I will say that this episode is definitely a downward trend from last week. Like looking at the lemon cakes, like season 2, episode 2 was rated really high. Episode 3 pretty good. Last week, like overwhelming 69% 5 lemon cakes. This week it's like 70% 4 lemon cakes, which is still a good rating. But I think I would give it like a 3. I didn't hate all this stuff. This is like really good stuff that needs to happen. I don't know that it all necessarily needed to happen in the episode like this. There's some of this stuff could have happened off screen. It feels like they need the season to end at a certain point, and so they are stalling for time, which is weird because they have less episodes this season. I don't know. And I think this was actually the shortest episode, wasn't it? I think it was only like an hour and 3 minutes or something. It felt longer, but
episode 3 was 59 minutes, and then
a
episode
little
4 was
shorter.
like 57.
I thought that was really.
Yeah. It was. Those were notably short. No, it's just that long ass sequence feels.
Yeah, because the battle sequence is so long.
It's like 25 minutes of the battle, and it feels like a movie in that 25 minutes.
But still,
I
mean,
want to
Dragons,
defend the Damon stuff, guys. I want to fight about it.
Interesting.
I think it's good character stuff. I think they're breaking him down, right? They're stripping away the various layers of misogyny and shittiness of him as a human being, right? The part of him that says shit like, "Yeah, go kill your uncle or your grandfather, Oscar Tully, or to Oscar Tully," and like, I don't know. I think all of the things that make Damon, right? All the competing issues that he has going on inside of him are being fucked with continuously, and I think that's good because when he comes back to Harrenhal, I think it will be with the understanding that he won't be leaving it. Hence the initial like her telling him she'll die here or he'll die here.
I can't believe I'm saying this. I think I agree with Jucio. I feel like I don't love the Damon stuff, and I'm definitely like I'm pretty much at the station where I want to get off the train, you know, but like I'm okay with it, this episode. It helped for me that they interspersed it with like stuff happening as opposed to just like mostly dreams and incomprehensible stuff, which is fun. But like I do agree. I think they're kind of Harrenhal is digesting Damon, and I think we're literally going to see what comes out at the end, and like that is what they're trying to do with this sequence. And even if it's not 100% successful to me, I completely agree with Katie. The wood chopping was baffling to me. I appreciate the decision to do it and many of their choices within.
Yeah, I guess we'll get there, but I don't know. I don't know, because the Damon doing stuff part is like hilarious and kind of fun in bits, but then him directly being like, "Well, I'm just gonna be the king, and whoever gets to the throne first," like I don't know. That's not really the angle that I expected, so I'm not sure how I feel about that or how it's going to fall in with the dream shit. I don't know. Yeah, it's confusing.
I think what's a bit confusing for me with Damon is what exactly is causing this crisis of identity or crisis of conscience. Is it literally the magic of Harrenhal? Because we're used to like when a character goes through something like this existential period, it's usually caused by something that's happened in the real world. But here it seems like his subconscious is being invaded from like a magical vantage. But then I'm thinking, oh, is it the murder of the child? I think it's interesting. It's just unclear. I can't really get a good connection to what his character is going through or why he's going through this.
If I had a sense of what it was building towards, I might be more forgiving. But if the conclusion is that he's going to go home and make up with Rhaenyra, that it's just a circle, that he got in a fight with his wife, felt guilty, and then came home and made up so they can go take King's Landing. I don't know. Maybe it'll spread its tendrils out through future seasons, because this is like a lot of internal work for Damon. But for now, from this perspective of episode 5, it just feels like wheel spinning because they did not have anything else for him to do this season.
Yeah, because if that's where they're going, I don't know. He could go to the 7-Eleven and come back. Like, this feels like he's driving to Vegas and is going to come back, and you're like, that's pretty far.
Well, a lot of it seems to be driven by guilt. Like he's feeling guilt about his relationship with Rhaenyra. He's feeling guilt about what he ordered done to the child. And then even within this episode, when he's identified as, the sackers are identified as having carried his banner and committing these atrocities, he almost like doubles over. He almost faints from that revelation. And I wasn't sure why. Is the realization of what he's done, like, is he someone that's like always just shot from the hip or just acted rashly but never thought about what it's going to do to other people, and now he's having to face those consequences more vividly? Or is the power of the weirwood making that, like, he's always pushed it down but now it's like released into his brain a bit more? Or is it the fight with Rhaenyra is making him question everything? I don't know. It's kind of like spinning, and it's good dramatic TV, but I can't get like a handle on where it's coming from and where it's going. Maybe that's why it just feels like it's a bit meandering.
Mm.
So I don't know, but my suspicion is that the writer's point of view is that Damon is an abusive character who, in order to like reunite successfully with Rhaenyra, needs to confront these things within him, and he wouldn't do that under any other circumstance. Like, I don't think he's a Jaime Lannister who, like, you could, or even an Aegon who you could physically hurt in some way, and then that would, cause some kind of reckoning of the self. I think that this is what they came to as far as like how do we change him.
I think there's also like you're seeing a lot of comparison between Damon and Aemond. And I think that when you look at Damon throughout his life, throughout season 1, like, he was constantly held back by, his family, Rhaenyra and Viserys. Like, he was constantly told no, and like constantly like told, like, look at what you've done, like, you can't do this. When he tries to confront Viserys about taking Rhaenyra's hand, Viserys is like, hell no, and, there's problematic, things within that thing as well. But I feel like Damon might have some learned morality, or at least a sense of what that might be, whereas Aemond is totally left unchecked, and, like, he is what happens when he doesn't have people around him who are being like, hell no, you can't just walk around and do what you want.
Which is interesting, because I also agree that there's parallel here that is important between them. Like, I actually think that I'm torn between impregnating Alice under cover of being Damon's mom, and like just the kind of, and the sex dream with Alyssa being kind of a manifestation of Damon's own mommy issues that Aemond actually, for weird as it is dealing with in a somewhat healthy manner, so it's kind of an interesting contrast there.
They're both yearning for unconditional love that they feel like they don't get anywhere else. Like, that's my take on that dream about his mother. Like, is that, one, like, their family tree is totally fucked, so, like, it's a good metaphor for the dynasty. But also just, they just seem so, like, fragile and insecure, and the only way that they can sort of reach for something that feels like wholly accepting is to reach for mommy, for a mother figure who has an imaginary mother figure, rather, or a woman you pay to be your mommy.
All I could think of this episode was that shot of Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV, but just with like Freud's head on his face.
Please make that meme.
Like, every character is some kind of mummy issue or
We're
foot
like,
issue.
We're way ahead on this scene, but like they dropped that scene on us. I mean, it was the first moment watching the episode where I'm like, what the fuck? Like, who is this, like, is this Alice Rivers and Damon's like bleached her hair and something weird is going on? Like, I couldn't tell at first, like, because it was very intense sex scene, and then she's like, "Oh yes, my son." I'm like, "What the?" Like, oof. Like lead with that, please.
And then he
Very
had blood on
awkward.
his hands again, by the way.
Oh yeah, he takes everyone's head in those dreams, pretty much.
The more I think about it, the more I think he is just being like bewitched by Alice Rivers. Like she's just messing with him, and you like just pulling his neurology apart with her fingers.
She definitely doesn't seem to be on his side, so makes sense to me.
And no other character seems to acknowledge she's even there.
That's a good point. Has anyone looked at her besides him?
There's one bit when the Castellan Strong comes in, and he kind of like harumphs as he walks by her, and like that is the only so far on screen possible acknowledgement that she exists. So like the theory that like is going around the internet is like he's getting Tyler Durden hardcore, which hopefully not, but
Please put some respect on his name. It's Sir Simon Strong, please. Thank you.
By that logic, he has sex with Aemond.
Hey, I'm down for it.
And the battle above the God's Eye is just him fighting himself and pummeling both dragons to death.
Oh no. I fully expected him to come out of that fever dream with his mother and like be in bed with Alice Rivers or something and like go, "Oh, okay, this is what's going on." And he was just like sitting at the table eating duck. And I'm like, this is not where I thought this would open up, but
that stuff is weird too, because it's like, did he just miss everything between the dream and now? Or is he having a flashback? Is it like an acid flashback? Like he's had a normal day and then he suddenly flashes back and then
unclear.
snaps out of the dream.
It's happened twice now.
There's also a lot of focus on food whenever he's like, because initially he refused the food at Harrenhal. Now he's okay with the food at Harrenhal. And like, a part of me is like, is she just drugging his ass continuously? And that's where this is all kind of like just werewood pasting him all the time,
Her motivation's unclear to me. I don't understand her socially conscious concern for the small folk. Yeah, is she just fucking with him for fun? I would kind of dig that. Or does she want to, I don't know, stymie him in some way or like make his life more difficult? Like she's not a green. She doesn't have a reason to be like. Maybe she doesn't support the Greens or the Blacks.
A part of me thinks she's just trying to rip open his conscious, his conscious, as in like, the voice in the back of your head that tells you this is wrong, and like make him realize that he's doing bad things. But I don't know.
I like the idea that different players in the game have different types of power. Like the power of the Targaryens is quite literal. They have dragons, they have armies, they have strength in numbers and force. Whereas like the original inhabitants of the Riverlands, they have like a magical kind of power. So, and I think thematically, Harrenhal kind of represents that point where the dragons arrived and burned down Harrenhal and conquered the lands. But maybe Alice Rivers represents this kind of like pre-Targaryen or even pre-Andal people that are still there. They're low down on the ground and they have very little obvious power, but they're still hanging on and they're still wielding their influences in different ways, and they're still there. And also, you see in the small folk, they're in the gutters, they're pushed down, but when they see the dragon head being pulled through the streets, they have this kind of snap realization like, oh, maybe the Targaryens aren't gods. Maybe the dragons can be killed. So I don't know, there's different ways. There's different ways that this world is being shaped. There's armies, but then there's also assassins in the shadows. There's backroom dealings under staircases. There's the small folk getting more hungrier and hungrier. There's all these different points at play. It's not a strong versus weak kind of dynamic. There's lots of inputs.
All right.
Adam.
And on that note,
We've totally thrown off your flow.
no, we haven't, because we've covered so much ground. It's going to make this so much easier. Let's start with the first scene. And actually, the very first scene of this episode, we're probably not even going to talk about because it's like 30 seconds and we're just going to skip by it. But it's Corlys and Rhaenyra mourning Rhaenys, and there's a lot more on that later, but it's just kind of, it opens up with, hey, they clearly know what happened, and they're both pissed and upset. And then we immediately cut to Melly's head being brought through King's Landing in a very triumphant moment that, like, all of the small folk are not having shit to do with at all. Like, I do love this moment where they ride in and it's like, victory, man, look, we got a dragon head. Obviously we're the rightful people here in this fight, and like every single person in the crowd is like, oh god, a dragon's head, oh, this isn't right. Aegon is actually given credit for this, which I think is hilarious. But makes sense. And then we see, is it Hugh Hammer's apprentice or his son? I'm not sure. Talking about how he thought that the dragons were gods, and Hugh just says, they're just meat, which is kind of weird. And I did note that the rat catchers are still hanging because that's fun. And then
they're hungry.
Yeah, Aemond's already there as Alicent views this happening, and then just kind of walks off. And Alicent in this episode is like, whew, lots of L's. And then we see Aegon with his armor being peeled off, and then Aemond just sort of like, well, someone's gonna have to do the ruling, eh? And then Alicent and Cole have their kind of scene where he's sharpening his sword, and I thought maybe he'd sharpen his other sword, but it didn't happen. And
he's cleaning it, which I think is a little more.
Or cleaning it, yeah. And then yeah, right. His sword is unclean. And then when she asks like what Aemond's part in the battle was, he's like, I don't know. Which I don't know if that's how that was meant to come off, but I'm like, we all know what the biggest dragon in the kingdom did. Yeah. So that was interesting.
I wanted more of this. I wanted
the
more.
Cole part, or
no, I wanted more reacting. I wanted more like freak out. I feel like they were just like, great.
Yeah, well, only so much budget. You mean like to the dragon head?
Yeah. I thought the dragon head going through the crowd was amazing. That was an incredible scene.
Yeah, that was great. Greg and I were like waiting for people to jump on the dragon head and like chop off pieces of meat to eat because they were all clearly hungry.
Like, he's a god. If I eat the dragon, I will gain dragon powers.
Yeah, but then they go into all the taboo, and it makes more sense why they didn't.
I thought Aegon should have been full pepperoni, not just like half cooked on one side. I was a little disappointed about how undercooked he was. I was like, I feel like he should be fucked up beyond recognition.
He was just lightly first degree burned.
Just a little charred. The close up of his bone as they clicked it back into place was awesome.
Ugh.
Well, that was the worst.
Yeah, I think there's also a production reason for him not looking super duper crispy, because they did mention this like in the behind the scenes thing, which was really short this week. But one of the things they said was like, oh yeah, like it took like 7 hours or something to do him up like that, and they're like thinking forward, like they can't do that every week, so they had to kind of like do it in a way that once they cover him up and other things, like, it's supposed to look like, I think they focused more on making it look like the armor had burned him, like the armor was burned into him than anything else, because apparently the Valyrian armor is fireproof. It just got really hot.
Sure, it's very funny though that they're like, the next few hours are the most crucial. He may not survive. It's like, y'all rolled him very slowly through the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how long of a carriage ride was that though? Too, like, I don't know. I'm surprised they moved him.
Why did they not fly him home? I mean, not that Aemond would be like all cool with that.
Oh yeah, I bet Aemond suggested that.
Oh yeah, he would have.
Oh no, he slipped.
Game of Thrones suggests differently, but like I don't think dragons are cool with just like having a bunch of people hop on, like the EMTs giving up Vagar. Maybe, not a great idea. Drop the king, if from the sky or some shit.
Well, I mean, also they
That's a
didn't have
good
any
point.
doctors with them, or doctors, whatever. They didn't have any health people.
There were no
apparently.
barber surgeons.
Yeah.
You think they could have found a maester at like Duskendale or something? Because that's a pretty long, bumpy journey all the way to King's Landing from.
Well, Rook's Rest had a maester, but like, how many people got killed when Melis fell? The castle started to burn, right?
Of, like the best maesters, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also like keeping him there, maybe not the best idea.
Also, Sunfire dead? Question mark.
This made me so mad.
I'm like, there's no way.
It's shocking.
The thing that freaked me out
so much.
Yeah,
What?
the thing that freaked me out was the way Cole put it, which was that Sunfire was a long time in dying, which felt to me like they had seen the dragon die, not
it's
that they were
definitive,
assuming. Yeah, which it totally might not be, but like that put me on edge. And then when Rhaenyra was like, "Oh yeah, the other dragon's dead," or Melis killed the dragon, or whatever, at the end, I was like, no.
Yeah, that can't be. That just there's no way that's possible. I don't. But I guess they're like they really want to like have the audience forget. But obviously, there's the internet and stuff exists. But I think it makes some sense that like they can't like medevac the dragon when like they probably just left it.
If Sunfire
assuming
is dead, then Aegon can't fly to Dragonstone later, and he can't charbroil Rhaenyra with Sunfire. It's possible that they've worked out a different death for Rhaenyra, but it rewrites so much of the end of the story if that dragon is gone.
Yeah, if Sunfire is really dead, it makes a lot of things don't make sense.
It'd be more insulting than Kermit, honestly. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, my boy Sunfire is a good boy. He even learned English for Aegon. Okay.
Was it definitive though? Because like I kind of was just like confused.
I think ultimately it's a red herring, but the way they phrased it worked on me as far as like actually thinking that he might be dead.
Right.
I completely dismissed it until other people brought it up and was like, "Oh, is he really dead?"
Oh yeah, I don't think Cole's lying. I think Cole thinks he's dead. But...
Oh, you think Cole thinks he's dead? Huh.
Like unless he and Aemond have some like long game plan about keeping Sunfire like being alive a secret, but I don't know. It's
what would be the
weird.
point?
Yeah, what would be?
And
like,
but
the
what
only
does
thing
Cole know about dragons?
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is like they thought the dragon was dead, but it's just like in hibernation or a coma or something.
Yeah. And then
well, also because not to belabor this too much, but like they made a very clear, like it was obvious that Sunfire was alive at the end of the last episode. He was breathing, and the implication was that Aegon was dead instead. So like, I don't know. It's probably nothing. It's probably just a red herring, and then we'll see him like do that thing where he eats those people or whatever, and it'll be like, yay, Sunfire's alive. But
it's doing good. But also the connection between the dragon and the rider. Like to me, if Sunfire's dead and Aegon's in like such dire straits, it's like, oh, there's no way he survives then.
Yeah, that's not a good omen for Aegon. I will say they were very lucky that Aegon was unconscious, because I feel like sneaking him into the castle, at first I was like, why did they throw all that shit on top of the box? And then it was like, oh, because they're trying to not make it obvious.
Yeah, no, that's just
like,
some supplies from the battle, don't worry.
Yeah. But like, yeah, that would have been a lot harder if he'd been screaming, as I sort of assumed he would be.
I was ready for the screaming. Sorry, Katie.
Yeah, maybe they stopped for some milk of the poppy at Westeros screens.
He had one line in the episode, and it was "mummy."
It's not fair how they make me feel about all these people.
Aegon might have been good as king. Now we'll never know.
I
feel nothing for him.
The shot of I did really love the shot of Aemond striding into the surgery room, and as a complete contrast to Damon, just no qualms about stepping right up to the gore, staring right into the wounds and the armor being pulled out of the skin and the bones clicking in and out of place, and just not even blinking, like no remorse for what he's done. And even the framing, like he's so central to the shot, he's so powerful, and everyone else is just kind of clustering around the edges of the frame. Like he's really sort of just so confident and so coming into his own. And
It's
his
weird 'cause-
ascendancy requires, unlike every other character in the episode, who's always trying to shuffle around and convince and wheel and deal for their ascendancy and their position. He literally says nothing and is promoted to King Regent.
I think that was like probably sort of arranged, but I think it's weird because Damon is spending so much time being like, call me king, call me your grace.
Yeah.
Like he's spending so much time justifying why, like people need to like follow me. And then Aemon's just like, I'm just going to grab the ball and go sit over here. And,
It's like what Tywin says, no true king needs to tell people to call him king. And that's what Aemond is.
It's interesting.
I think for me, this episode was like, it felt like a transitionary episode of Aemond. Not that they're never going to humanize him again, but like this seemed like the debut of monster Aemond to me. Like I the way I read Cole throughout the episode is just like absolutely scared shitless by this thing that he has like created, and I think that's kind of, I don't know, it's a very it explained why he doesn't do much in the episode actually, or say very much, when I kind of really wanted more from him. But like I can kind of understand it as if they're like not the less you see of the monster, but the less you hear of the monster, the scarier it is.
All right, I gotta go, guys. Have nice to see you all, and have a good rest of the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Duncan.
Thanks, Duncan.
See ya.
Thanks, Duncan. See ya.
Stay true, my friend. Yeah, I think it's very odd. I don't know. Aemon's just an odd fellow, but like we can talk about it since it's like a brief scene. But like we get him on the throne later on when Helena is like lost out of nowhere. And very I don't know, very odd.
What
do y'all think of the? I was going to ask, what do y'all think of the scene with I guess his ascendancy proper, like the actual vote where Larys double crossed her?
Really like that scene. I mean, obviously, like for one thing, like Larys makes a compelling argument based on the position that they have, made for their side. Like Alicent making her bid for power and just being so thoroughly shut down on every side, and then that long shot of her bitter humiliation, and just like you can see in the actress' eyes, she's like she wants to lose her shit, but she can't. And so she just has to bottle it up and pretend she's okay with this, and know that it's also the bed that she made for herself.
Her breathing and just like the fading in and out of the council itself talking was
I couldn't
perfect,
tell if she
because
was
these
about to
men
have
are
a
just
panic
ignoring
attack
her.
or what.
I think that was like what was kind of happening. Another thing I'll say is Larys, to her it feels like a betrayal, but also like even if Larys supports her, is Kristen Gold going to? Is anyone else in the council?
You got to keep giving feet on the regular if you want to keep someone like that on your side. That's all I'm saying.
So true.
It's like two sides of the sexism coin, because it's like the outright sexism of we can't have a woman as our leader, and then the benevolent sexism of Cole, like, I need to protect you from getting your hands dirty. And Alicent just sitting there like, fuck. Rhaenyra was right.
I just one point about the council scene, which I thought was incredible. I I almost wonder, and this is like annoying English major bullshit, but like she's breathing so hard that it almost puts me in mind of like someone in labor. You know, it's like, to me, this is almost like literally what she has birthed, both with Aemond and with the council, you know, and instead of kind of being given the reward that she thinks. I mean, to Alison's credit, I really don't. She seems genuinely extremely distraught by what has happened to Aegon. So I do not think that like her first thought when he's brought in is like, "Oh, I get to be queen now," you know. But like, for this to be the outcome, and like after all of that literal labor that she has done for years, you know, is just like profoundly affecting.
Yeah.
No, but I think her first thought is obviously, okay, guys, obviously, listen up, focus on me. This started the night that Viserys died, and she still doesn't get it. Is like, there's a lot of emails she's not in the chain on. And she's sort of just getting it now, I think. Because you have Cole and Aemond doing their thing, and the rest of the small council. Like, the only person that speaks up is what? The Grand Maester?
There's levels to sexism, and I think that Alicent is possibly realizing her folly in, you know, putting her in front of Rhaenyra and the consequences of what she's done to put her son on the throne. Like, you can't. Yes, you can put Aegon on the throne, but you expect that these people are going to be like, hell yeah, you can be the Queen Regent again. Sure.
I mean, Cersei ran into this too, and she wasn't confronting dragons. I mean, imagine if Alicent was a Targaryen who had a dragon. Like, maybe she would have more say on this council because it's like a war council. But they're very clearly like, you don't know what the next move is. You don't know what to do with. I mean, it's sort of how Rhaenyra is being treated somewhat as well, because she wasn't really trained on warfare, right? And there's obviously sexism involved in it, but I feel like the fact is that Alicent just doesn't have a lot to offer here.
Oh, I disagree. I think that I mean, you know, she's not perfect by any means. She probably have some very bad ideas. But I do think that like her point about like, I did this for years for Viserys, and like we're at war now, but I think her goal is still temperate, you know, or more temperate anyway than certainly than Aemon's, you know. So I think that that's why it's so shocking to her. It's not necessarily that she was like, you know, they'll just let me do it. It was that I did this. You know, and then it turns out that the only reason that anybody tolerated that was because Otto was there behind her.
Right.
Well, and because Viserys was her husband. I mean, but I think the fact is that they've, like I said, they've cut her out of stuff for so long that like I don't really think she has a lot to offer in their plans, like by design. I mean, it's not that she can't offer advice on running the city, but I think the fact is that she wants to be able to tell everyone what to do, and you know, she's given that up through her decisions.
Oh no, it's okay. I think that she just wants control. I think she felt in control with putting Aegon on the throne, and I think that control that she felt was probably false. But I think that she, you know, I think she was trying to control Aegon. I think she, in this position, is trying to regain that control that she thought that she had. And so, like, I can see how she would think that. I bet even, like, in the future, we're going to see, like, her and Otto have some kind of interaction where she's going to be like, you would have picked me. And even he wouldn't. Because he's...
Oh, yeah, I can see that conversation, too. I get what you're saying. Where he's going to be like, yeah, no, that wouldn't have been you in the moment.
Yeah.
I will say it's not a perfect logical line from, well, the Greens or the Blacks are promoting a queen and we don't want a queen to rule, to Alicent can't rule as regent. Like, I think, you know, there's there's some fumbling that's going on there, on Laris's part. But like, it's certainly, you cannot beat the irony.
Now, in the books, isn't she the one that wants the gates closed?
Mm-hmm.
But here, did she object, or
I think she objected.
She was like very like when it was mentioned, it like was like the air was taken out of the room for her. Is what it seemed like.
That's how I read it. But she was going through a lot at the moment. So, but I think what's also interesting is that all of these people have very clear, or at least acknowledgeable strengths. Like Cole in the last episode, his plan was great. It's just that Aegon fucked it up. However, his decision in this episode to parade Melee's head through the streets, shows that he's not very smart on that, air. Aemond is a brilliant strategist. He's an incredibly smart person, but like, I think he is clearly lacking. Like we've seen what's going to happen with the city closed, and if you're concerned about hunger, then like it's actually probably better to get people out of the city. That was very evocative of Cersei closing the gates. And we know how that ended.
I had a question about that actually. Doesn't Ulf's wife say she like the road is open to Tumblestone? Tumbleton, yeah.
And a shiver went down 10,000 spots.
Right, yeah.
Don't go that way!
My issue with that is that, like, then why aren't they getting any food from the Reach?
Oh, well, you see, they kind of forgot about the Reach.
Isn't Otto down that way getting help from the high towers? Didn't he?
It's Old
that where he
Town.
skedaddled out to?
Like, how much time are we since coronation? Like, what, has it been a few weeks, months? Like, what are we thinking?
I'm gonna guess it's been 3 weeks or something like that.
And they're already like running out of food and shit's going to hell.
It just doesn't make sense why they're running out of food. I'm gonna be honest with you.
It has to be longer though, because Alicent had time to conceive and become aware that she was pregnant. So that's not a 2-week situation.
That's true.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because Cole wasn't before Viserys died. So yeah,
I mean,
that's a great observation.
Precautionary more than
No, it could.
It's more like the plan B. You mean?
Yeah, like if she's like, I missed my period and it's been a couple of weeks. Let's just be sure.
I mean, I guess I kind of read it as like they did it, and then the next morning she's like, just to make sure, give me some tansy tea, But yeah, I don't know.
I personally read it more abortive, just because she touches her stomach. She like it. She seems to be having a really not fun time. Which not that any version of this is a fun time, but I feel like it would be worse if there were actually something to get rid of.
Yeah, and I mean they have to have been planning. Like time has passed. There has to have been some time passed. So,
and
rat catchers are skeletons.
That's true.
There we go.
Although the rat catchers thing, I don't know. It's
hot.
That was so recent.
Yeah, and so what do you think of the fact that Cole's excuse when Alicent confronts him again is like, well, we need a dragon rider, and he seems genuinely shook by the dragons about what happened. I don't know if it's not necessarily he doesn't want to piss off Aemond or fuck with Aemond, which I mean he probably doesn't, but he seems genuinely in over his head, which I mean they all are.
I think it's pretty real. Like the man, it's pointed out that he apparently fought in like skirmishes in the Dornish marshes, and so he had actually seen battle, but he hadn't seen dragon battle, and that's a totally different thing. It's a
right.
A new thing for him completely, and I do think it probably, considering what we saw and everything that happened and how traumatizing that battle was in general, that
and he tries to explain to Alicent that he thinks this is a a mercy, like they're, you're being spared the horrors of everything that we're about to do. And she's like, well, I don't want to be spared, but she's not gonna slap on some armor and go on the warpath. So I don't know if he's necessarily meaning just like the horrors of the battle, or the fact that like we're gonna have to do some more fucked up shit to people.
I think it's both. I think it's very much that he's like he says like what we have to do now is terrible. Would you preside over it? And there definitely to me is that it's not even saving her from it because she wouldn't experience it, but almost like preserving her from it, right? Which is obviously sexist and whatever. But it's an interesting motivation from him. And I think the same exact thing is true of Aemond, because he's not Cole doesn't give any indication that he knows what happened to Aegon up there, but he is way too quiet and way too not meeting Aemon's eyes, in my opinion, for him to not know, or at least strongly suspect. So my theory is that he's like on both ends trying to protect Alicent from her son and from the war. And obviously,
I don't expect a confrontation between Cole and Aemond about the assassination, basically, attempt of his brother. They'll just never speak about it, maybe.
I don't know. I think it depends on how this plays out. I could see it going both ways, depending on where they take Cole, really. Like, Aemond doesn't care either way if somebody confronts him about it, Although it does, Cole's death in the book is like pretty like perfunctory, right? So I guess it's possible that was a setup from Aemond or somebody. Not necessarily hoping for that, because I do like the, person just dies in battle, it happens type thing. But
I feel like we're not going to get that. I feel like Cole is one of those that's going to stay around longer than he did in the story, because, he's kind of got main cast plot armor. Yeah, and like I think he's popular with the ladies, but he's a despicable character. But
he's not popular with anyone except me. I'm the only person.
I don't know. I mean, David keeps talking about how handsome he is, so I don't know.
I would disagree that you're the only one. Okay.
Okay,
I'm sure
good.
There's
my man.
Cole fanfic. I don't know, but yeah, I think he will stick around longer. And I would like it if just like, yeah, there's a sequence of battles or something, and like he kind of like in like a montage just gets it. Would be kind of hilarious, but I don't think that they would do that, because they're gonna kind of elevate him, for purposes of the show. Would be my suspicion anyway.
I will say about that scene also in the courtyard. Well, for one thing, I was like, why are you having this conversation here? This is a terrible idea.
People can hear you.
Yeah, people can really hear you. They're not like, the bad smell does not make them unable to hear you.
Right.
However, I thought this scene was a good length, because a lot of the scenes in the episode were too long. But also I just love the way there's like this aborted intimacy between Alicent and Cole. Like, she begins it with like, oh, does your affection like flee in the morning like a moth or something, which is kind of like intimating that they have an ongoing bond, but it ends with her being like, I didn't give you leave to say my name, which is,
yeah,
it's like a really, it's so fascinating to me how like both of them are sort of like making these outreaches, and for him that's like, I protect you from the bad and scary things that are haunting my dreams right now. And from her perspective, that's, I think trying to establish some kind of relationship between them, or at least draw on their past clearly regular sexual encounters.
And even before that, they were close in each other's counsel.
Yeah. And it just doesn't work because they can't reach each other on that level.
Yeah, because she keeps dressing him down and being like, you're the help.
Yeah. And he's giving her exactly the opposite of what she wants, which is somebody to be like, you deserve power, even if I can't give you power. You deserve power and are capable of wielding it. Which is what Rhaenyra gets from Jace.
speaking of Rhaenyra,
You can play the crickets now.
we could, but I won't. Let's head over to Dragonstone, because I think we've covered most of the King's Landing shit at this point. Our first kind of real bit with Rhaenyra is her council talking about how they've lost the biggest dragon, and everyone's arguing, and everyone wants to tell Rhaenyra what to do, and she's like getting more frustrated again because this is not really the most productive or how she wants things to go. And of course she's like, well, obviously me and Cyrax got to go do it, and no one wants that. She's just very frustrated she can't go off to battle yet again, this is a good change from the book, because in the book they're just like, she refused to enter the battle, and in this it's like clearly she's ready for it, which definitely makes it a little less shitty. And then when she gets the dragon seeds, there won't be a need, so then we're back to that. But yeah, and then we get Jace and Bela, and she's like, well, phrase, which I did not expect that we were going to get this episode, but that was fun. So
I thought that we were gonna, like, when he said phrase, I was like, oh no, they're gonna do like a full Robb Stark, like serious Robb Starkification of him, and then I was like, oh good, we're not doing that.
His dragon was pretty far away when they met later on.
Is that supposed to be Forest and Sabbath of Frey? Because it is. If it is, again,
they are. Yeah, that is wrong. I didn't see anywhere where it was confirmed. I did look at that because I was curious, but I hope it's not supposed to be them.
This is not the vibe. If it is.
Going back to the council scene, I just, like, this is where my points go off. Like, I feel I'm so tired of Rhaenyra losing the battle with her council, and I'm like, we get it. I know this is setting up Corlys, but we get it.
Yeah, well, and Corlys takes longer in the story to get there, but they can't have him take that long. So,
who is the guy she sends away? Staunton?
The guy she sends to
That's
Damon later?
Alfred Broom.
Brune, okay.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
not there yet,
Broom.
but it's Alfred, her loyal butler.
Yeah. Her loyal, very
Yeah.
loyal butler.
Not so loyal.
Very, very loyal.
Yeah.
He's the one who
The most
betrays her
loyal.
later?
Yeah.
It's
And
Alfred
he
Broom.
looks like he's the guy that's going to betray her, right?
Yeah,
So-
there's currently a pretty big stink about him, personally, like the actor. If you hit the Twitters.
Oh, really?
Wait.
Yeah,
Some like
he's
or-
just check his Twitter and his first pin post, and you'll figure out why.
All right. Well, listeners, you can go do that on your own time.
Making me look up something now.
Yeah. let's
Casey,
go to
just
something.
shoot over the screenshots, please.
Yeah, post it in the chat there. Let's go to something a little more interesting.
Okay, hang on. I'm sorry. Wait, why is this so boring? Like, why is it? Am I just biased? Like, am I just
The council
poisoned
shit?
by team? Yeah, like this just isn't interesting
nothing really
to me.
happened here. I feel like this scene and the later scenes probably should have been like combined or like stretched into something where kind of more happens. Like all we get here is, hey, Jace is like he's gonna go off flying and do some shit despite what his mom says. That's kind of all we get, because we get more of like Rhaenyra's counselors are trying to run her over and don't want her to do anything. Like we've had that for like several episodes now, and it's like you're probably just like, I'm over it. Like let's move past that, right?
I think
Yeah.
so. I just also, I don't know, like it
Yeah, this
feels
is not
weird
great.
to me that, like, I guess that the resistance, not that there's resistance to Rhaenyra being the queen, but that the resistance is so strong that there isn't at least, some kind of division in the ranks where some people are like, no, she's the queen, we're listening to the queen. the whole council is against her.
She
And I
doesn't
feel
have,
like-
her council. It's not the best. Okay, they don't send their best to Dragonstone. Okay, some of them are good people, but not all of them.
It doesn't help that Rhaenyra is like she is a nicer version of herself than she is in the book. She's a little more toothless, and I don't know, like, the thing is, like, I enjoy every scene with the Greens because they are such a hot mess. Like, they are such a tangle of self-loathing and insecurity that it's just fun to watch them in the same room. I don't feel the same way about the Blacks, especially now that Damon is gone, because Damon was kind of the hottest mess. Now it's just, like, Bela and Jace and Rhaenyra, and they're all pretty decent folk, and it's just not as fun when they're in the room together. It's like, oh, they love each other. Boring.
Yeah, and it's kind of more like stalling for time until the thing that needs to happen next happens, sort of thing. Which hopefully next episode we'll kind of get. But anyway, let's discuss it's a couple scenes ahead, but it's related to this since we're talking about it. So Rhaenyra is talking with Mysaria, and what does it she say? Like, she says something like the things that you can't do, like you have to let other people do. And then she sends off someone who I figured out, I didn't know who that was in like the red, but later on I figured out it was one of, I think, Alicent's old handmaids. That was like now Rhaenyra's handmaids. It was like a lesser lady. I forget what house.
Her name is Elinda Massey, and I think she's actually always been on. She's in the birthing scene for both.
She's in the birthing
Rhaenyra's
scene. She's in the scene where Eric comes to kill her.
Yeah, but
she's
in
been...
King's Landing, and she's familiar with everything. And the person that she goes to see is our the barmaid, who was also the lady in waiting or chambermaid from last season that Alicent had to send away after Aegon assaulted her. So somehow they're gonna, I don't know. The two of them have access to the Red Keep, I guess. I didn't really understand what was going on there, but maybe it's just sort of showing a network of people who know people that now Rhaenyra is kind of getting involved in.
I don't know. Every time, what's her face, Mysaria starts talking about the people, I'm like, no. I want her to be sly and have her own goals. I just like, it's just not interesting to me that she is like, I'm gonna free the people of King's Landing and do that through Rhaenyra or whatever. And like, I don't know.
She was ready to peace out, and then suddenly, like, Murderous Twin shows up, and she's like, maybe I'll stay.
I guess like I don't. It's like it's like the Team Black goodness just rubbed off on her. Now she's just like, I'm a good person. It's like, you shouldn't be. You're Lady Misery in the book.
I think that's going to come up. Although there's a certain aspect, like of mushrooms writing and all that. That's obviously propaganda and exaggeration for telling his tale that we're seeing. And I do like the way that kind of evolves, that they have the freedom to do that. But yeah, I guess it'll depend on what she does with her little spy network there. Because this person was able to go to a gold cloak and like somehow they got in the city. I don't know. She got in the city and then was able to go to a gold cloak and find, the chambermaid person.
She's
but
not
I just
even
don't
subtle
know.
about it. She's like, hey, I'm here from Mysaria. Like,
yeah.
the
Like,
spy.
hey, your girl sent me. Like, I just don't know, because neither of them have access to any. I'm confused as to where it's going. I'm sure there'll be another person that does. I don't know. I mean, they're not going to blood and cheese him again, right? So maybe it's just going to be information and, I don't know, setting up the taking of King's Landing.
I will say, I do think that they're setting up Rhaenyra to be more willing to engage on a more blood and cheese / at least dragon battle level, like burn them all kind of level, but it's slow going, you know.
But yeah, let's discuss. So in this sequence also, Rhaenyra talks to Bela, and they have a really great conversation, you know, mourning Rhaenys, and it's a good setup for what we get later, because she sends her off with a box to Corlys, which I think contains, you know, the hand pen, obviously. But it's nice that, like, throughout the episode we get several kind of points where we touch on like how much everyone loved Rhaenys and how important she was. And now she's gone. But that's going to lead to probably the best scene of this episode, I thought, which is a little bit later. But when Bela is talking with Corlys about, what did she say? She's talking about his 7 voyages or something, and she said something about like all the wealth and, you know, how you know, grand, you know, High Tide was and all that. And she's like, I wonder how many of them know it was all for her, which I thought was a great line. And that whole conversation was just like, the two of them did great work. The dialogue was great. Like, oh, like the way he tells her. Sorry, the way he tells her that he wants to name her heir, like it's almost like the idea just comes to him, right? Like the actor does a great job of just like, oh, you know, I want you to be the new heir, and she's like, no, I'm fire and blood, like you need salt and sea, and like kind of walks off, and he's like, oh, like there's like a desperation to connect in that moment, but she's like also strong enough to kind of be like, no, that's not me. Like, I'm going to do my own thing. But not like dismissive or mean or anything. I don't know. It all worked really well.
Yeah, I really love this scene. It was perfect. It celebrated Rhaenys. It gave more info for her background for a lot of the non-book readers. Maybe we should have had some of that in the beginning, but regardless, it was a nice, you know, grandfather granddaughter moment. I thought it was very sweet, and we don't really have a lot of. I feel like all the family stuff is kind of complicated by the fact that everybody's related to weirdly.
They're related like 2 or 3 different times over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do like how he's just sort of there talking about how he just wants to sail away, and I think at that moment he may be legitimately pondering, like, you know, how far can I go? Like, I could take a trip. And it feels like she pulls him back from the edge there, because, like I said, in the book, in the story, it takes a while before he becomes hand. And I think, you know, the grief and the anger that he's probably feeling, this is kind of a way to maybe push through that and get him in the game quicker for the show.
Agreed.
So this is great and all, but can we just cast our memories back 2 episodes to when Rhaenys herself was like, you should make Rhaena your heir. Rhaena, your granddaughter who no longer has a fiance or a dragon. And now he's like, Bela, you're going to be queen of the 7 kingdoms. Would you also like to be the Lord of Driftmark?
Bela, you appear to have a dragon, and I need one for my household. Yeah.
It is interesting, but also just poor Rhaena.
Poor Rhaena, catching L's on every possible level.
She's on an important mission, Michal.
That
her
seems to be
2
going
choice
well.
of dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of discussion about her maybe taking the place of Nettles and riding Sheep Stealer, which I hope doesn't happen, which also just kind of makes it even more shitty for her.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a lot to do in the dance, but like she births the last dragon, right?
She comes out on top. Like, all the dragons are dead, and then she gets the last one.
Yeah, I mean,
after
like,
everything.
you know, I don't know. I think that's a good kind of period at the end of the sentence for this. So I hope that's what they stick with her. And I know it seems like it's kind of shitty, but it's her lot. Since we're talking about Reyna, the brief scene at the Eyrie.
Yeah.
I was really happy to be back at this location. I just like seeing the the shot out the window and stuff. I really liked that. But not a lot else going on here.
I saw something on TikTok that was like they've redesigned the set of the Eyrie like 3 different times throughout.
Who will be thrown out the moon door?
I think it's all just different angles, but like it does look very different.
Yeah,
It looks a lot nicer now. I'm going to be honest with you. But
Yeah, it
that's
looks
because
great.
all of my memories of the Eyrie are like season 1, basically.
Rain.
Yeah, like how it was gritty, shitty filter. It seemed like it was underfunded. In season 1, Tyrion was having a bad time. Like we saw a lot of sky cells. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's not long after that in the book, right? How long is it after that? Like less than a year before they kind of are shutting down for the winter, right?
No, it's a little bit longer than that before they shut down for the winter.
But this would be like the tail end of the season, I guess, right? Because the castle is not open in winter, and the winters are years long.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it does look better here, cleaner, nicer.
It looks like a nice vacation place. Like I would go here to get away.
Same, yeah. They could market this as an Airbnb.
2 out of 10 would not recommend Harrenhal, but like Eyrie, I'm into it. Like
It's like
I don't
an
know.
Airbnb.
So true.
Oh my gosh. But
I
in the
don't know, I
book,
could
there's room for
definitely
the
go.
dragon to land, right? Like in the
Yeah,
courtyard.
where does it go?
Yeah.
Like if they had a big dragon, like it makes sense with the little one.
That's right. She asked for a dragon. It's like it's got to be a small one, or it'd destroy her whole castle.
You have no parking for the big one.
How are we gonna put it here?
It is weird. I wonder if they lose like the digital assets or something. Like what happens? Why they change it so much? They had to redo Corliss's hall for this episode briefly because he was in there, but I guess it was a full scene last season, and this season they kind of threw a few things in there, and the rest was all CG. But it's like they had all the assets to kind of make it look the same.
I don't think we talked enough about Damon fucking his mom.
Oh, we're coming back to that. We're Damon and Harrenhal. We're
You
gonna
mean my
swing back
favorite
around.
scene?
we're gonna swing back around on that.
Oh my god.
But,
A second Damon / Alyssa tagged fanfiction has hit the AO3 tower.
is he his own grandfather? I don't know.
It's very Targaryen.
It's so confusing. Yeah, like look, especially when like all the Targaryens like pretty much look the same. You're like extremely fair-skinned, white-haired girl, and you're like, it could be any of them, But the seed is not strong, because we get like the strong boys with their Targaryen-ass Targaryen blood don't have the hairs, why would that be? No.
Adam, stop role playing as Alice in Hightower.
No, you want me to go full Aemond?
Yeah.
Bastards! Oh, buddy. That's like one of my favorite moments from season 1 because he's like, I gotta commit. I gotta go full on.
Yeah.
Oh. And then like when Viserys is like, I'm gonna take his tongue. I'm like, oh, dude, be careful. This zombie is coming for you. It's just like that whole moment kind of encapsulates everything that's coming. I feel like for this show.
Yeah.
But let's see. Our last
like Damon.
Let's see. We'll save that for the end. But the only other bit that with Rhaenyra that we didn't talk about other than the final scene was kind of the fact that she sends Alfred off to hey, can you tell me what my husband's intentions are? Like, can you just go be like, hey, is that army for me or you? Like, he's like, what? She's like, I'll send some men with you so you'll be safe, but just just go tell him I wish to finish our conversation, and like, are you raising men for me or not? I'm like, oh God. He probably is like, this is not a great errand for me. Like, like
it's the equivalent of like, can you go find out if they're mad at me?
No, his face is like, if this could have been an email, was like a picture. It's like, this could be a raven, you could send Raven being like, hey, but she sent ravens, right? I guess he hasn't sent any because he's like, fuck the ravens.
I mean, it's the same logic she used for going to see Allison in person. It's he's just going to deflect the ravens, so you have to go.
Yeah, he's impervious to ravens now.
Apparently, everybody is.
But anyway, on that note, let's wheel back to Damon before we come to the final scene. So we missed all of the Damon fun, other than talking about his incest fever dream. Like, the best part of this episode was the first scene with him, like, I don't know, in the Highlands or wherever they shot this, just like on top of Caraxes, demanding that Brackens bend the knee, and they're like, well, fuck a Blackwood. And he's like, fine, I'm gonna burn the shit out of you. And they're like, yeah, fine, and just walk off. And I was like, oh, he's gonna burn some Brackens. And he does not.
That
very much does not burn them.
That scene of him sitting down on the hill was just like, I couldn't do it.
He was like, well, I couldn't
perform.
I was really disappointed because I was ready to watch Brackens die. But what the hell, dude? You get a guy excited and then you leave him hanging? What the fuck?
They want fire and blood, and I mean, I kind of want to give it to them, but also, like, they're pretty badass. I kind of want them on my side. Respect.
Damon, you know what? This is just like when Rhaenyra started kissing him back when he took her out to King's Landing. Like, they want it too much, and now he doesn't like it.
Yeah, but this leads to him telling the Blackwood dude, sort of like wink, wink, like, you got a way to get him to our side, right? Do whatever it takes, sort of thing. Which then feeds into the later conversation where they're like, we don't have any money. I thought maybe you could get it from Dragonstone. and he's like, no, but make sure you call me king.
Did we touch on the fact that, and I'm not the only person who thought this, that when he's telling Blackwood to use other methods with the Brackens, did anyone think he was like telling him to go seduce the Brackens?
I made that joke. I made that exact joke when it happened. I was like, whoa.
Do you have a path to the Brackens that might be somewhat unnatural?
I was the only one. Maybe I'm too innocent and like, naive to acts of war, but like, I was like, what do you mean other ways?
Yeah, I had no idea what
talking about.
It had weird like sexual undertones, but I was like, that can't be it. What does he want them to do? There must be some secret leverage they have that we don't know about yet.
I doesn't mind giving people vague instructions.
I was fully ready to start writing my Willem Blackwood, I don't know, whatever Bracken fan fiction, but then they had to spoil it with war crimes.
But you're so right, Katie, because he's like, yeah, bring me, a son for a son. They're like, no, not a fucking child. And then he's like, yeah, do whatever it takes to get those Brackens. And then he's like, wait, you war crimed me out of all the river lords. Fuck. Oh my gosh. Like, he doesn't, when he's woken up later on, it's the hour of the wolf.
I fuck with that scene so hard.
He kind of doesn't even care. He's like, why are you guys bothering with me? And they're like, oh, these people did this shit. And he's like, yeah, well, they needed to do shit. And they're like, no, we aren't going to do anything for you. Fuck off. He's just like half asleep and stunned. It's great.
Well, when they hit him with, they were using Targaryen banners when they did it. Well, he tells Blackwood that the crown can't be seen doing these acts, but you can, right?
But what? But like, he didn't give any direction either. So it's
the direction was use discretion on behalf of the crown, but do awful shit, essentially.
But like, take the women and children. That's going to get them on your side. Like, I don't know, man.
They also destroyed Seps and did like awful shit apparently.
Yeah, it's a little weird tactic to get allies.
Well,
Looks like he's not very good at this.
I thought maybe it was like go assassinate, the main Brackens and then just like get the kid lords or something. That's what I thought maybe would happen is like, yeah, kill the adults and just until it's like just a kid and then we can have their army or something. I didn't know where this was going and I was kind of surprised when this scene came up.
I'm kind of like, Katie, you just said like maybe he's not good at this, but like actually though, like how did he win the Stepstones, the whole thing from last season, and he's an idiot now? I guess it's probably the fucking werewood paste that he's drinking, but like, I don't know. I'm kind of just confused. I know he needs to go through some things to like, and
yeah.
I think that the scene with the Brackens was, more about him having Lena be like, think of your daughters, and him maybe having a little bit of a freak out with that because he is having a realization and, maybe he should, it's all very complicated.
But where does this go? Does he go like burn the Blackwoods and for their crimes to get the River Lords?
I don't know.
I'm not sure what's going on. I thought this part of the story was a lot simpler than this. It's okay if it's more complicated. I just don't understand how we're going to get to some things later.
I mean, we do get in the preview, it looks like he's leaving, which is very funny to me that he just fucked around for a whole season. Harrenhal and didn't get anything done.
Correct.
I think he's gonna summon Willem, kill him, like behead him for his crimes, and then we're gonna get Benjicott introduced, and then we're gonna munch out of Harrenhal.
Bro, we cannot kill my boy Willem. Excuse me? Did you see how hard he was when he went for Rhaenyra the first time? And then he came in fresh to Damon.
And then
like
it was
this?
really hard when he came for
he tried to seduce a Bracken and found out.
Like I said, it's gonna be super weird if all it takes to get him back on track is a message that from his wife that says, I want to finish our conversation, meaning I want to have sex with you again. And then he's like, okay, I gotta go home.
And he's like, yeah, hey, Dragon back, I'll be right back. And everything's good. I've been trying to raise this army for you, babe. I'm almost there. I just need a little help. I just need a little bit of help.
I just had a thought that, like, what if, like, this whole thing is a fever dream and, like, he wakes up at one moment and he's like, yeah, you have the Brackens and the Blackwoods. Like, you have all this done. Like, what are you talking about? Why do you think that this is all just a big problem?
Oh, you mean the midnight thing?
Plot... That would mean this whole plot is just, the point is that Harrenhal is haunted.
The whole point of this plot was to show him having sex with his mother. They were like, look, we really just wanted, when George told us about this scene where he has sex with his mother, we thought this is perfect for Damon.
No.
They very clearly make a point of saying that he never knew his mother, so they're like, don't worry, this never actually happened.
Right. Yeah, like, because Alice later on is like, good thing you never met your mom. Like, whoa, what? Who is she? If it turns out that she's Tyler Durden, like, if I'm gonna tell you right now, if in the next episode she is making bars of soap, I'm over. I'm done. I am done. Like, because she has to exist when Aemond shows up, right?
I did like that line where Damon is like, he'll kill you as soon as he sees you. I'm like, no, she's gonna have his babies. It's
I like how he just out of nowhere badmouths Aemond, like, Aemond's the worst, gosh. You're like, what was that about? Calm down. But she doesn't seem to be on his side. She doesn't really seem to be wanting to help him. I don't know. She could have killed him if she's given him all these teas and stuff. She just seems to like fucking with him.
Like I said, she's just Pyat Pri from season 2 of Game of Thrones. Remember when there was like 10 of him and he was like teleporting?
Oh, no.
That was the best scene, by the way.
I remember when
teleporting.
warlocks were subtle and the only way you knew was they had blue lips.
That was a bad
yes.
season for Danny.
Let's not revisit that, please.
I do think she doesn't necessarily need to exist as a real thing, personally, because, you know, he's going to meet her at Harrenhal. But also, it doesn't make a lot of sense if she's going to then go to Aemond and be like, but you're better. And then Aemond's like, all right, now time to go commit a fuck ton of war crimes in the Riverlands and burn it all down.
I think the purpose of this is to show, because it's ambiguous in the story, and I still don't really understand why they're doing it. But I think the purpose is to show, like, oh no, he wants to be king. He wants, like, when he says in this scene to her, when I show up and I'm in King's Landing, she'll be queen next to me, but it's gonna be my kingdom. And you're like, oh, like you're, like, you still don't even have like a single like guard with you, kind of. I don't know, man. Like you're talking a big game. You ain't burned no castles down or anything yet. Like, I don't know. It's weird. I did not expect the full I have to be king vibes from his brother's death. Like, if she was named queen and they both showed up to King's Landing the next day to be crowned, you think he's like pushing her aside and being like, no, actually I'm king, you know, in the on the iron chair? I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't really understand this.
I don't think he would claim to, I think he would be fine with the title. I think it's just the power he wants. So as long as he can like step over Rhaenyra into authority, I think he'd be fine being called whatever. It's just in Harrenhal for some reason he's mad about it. I'm gonna say it, this is a bad season for Damon. I'm not feeling it. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I like, I was feeling it and now I'm not. But it might be mostly because of his mom showing up. But like also, it does feel very I don't know what to do with this character. We're just gonna do something. This is what we're gonna do. Yay!
And I mean, I feel really betrayed by the mom scene because, like, it was hot to start, and I was like, what's going on? And they really, really made it go bad at the end. That's not fair.
My sympathy is minimal.
I'm just saying, they tricked us. I was like, oh, we're back to the, like, sexy Game of Thrones. Like, who the hell is
also
this?
not real, so go crazy.
I guess, just not, I don't know, not
It's
how I
not
wanted
even what
it to
Alyssa
go.
actually looked like.
Maybe it, how
Adam's
do you
like,
know that?
Adam's like, there's
Broken
horror.
nose.
Adam's like, there's
Oh.
horror in my sexy Game of Thrones. What the fuck, guys?
Well, I just was like, look, this is a scene that like featured him delivering the Lord's kiss, okay? To like, and then it transitions to like, oh hi, I'm your mother. Like, what? Like, I don't know, man. Is it? I don't know if I've ever seen that in like a movie or television or,
Where like,
yeah. I
have,
get it.
I
get it. It's a
I've
dream
seen something
sequence.
turned into horror that is that. Yeah. What? I mean, what?
I don't know. I don't think I've seen that. It's weird. It's weird as shit. Not here for it.
Are we down to the Jason Rhaenyra scene at the end?
Almost. We have Jace at the twins first, which kind of just plays into that. I mean, there's not really much there. He flies to the twins. It's cool. He, I guess, is just trying to book passage. This was a little bit of a trickery in the beginning because the preview showed him up at Winterfell and like the army's coming down, and I was like, oh, are we getting Winterfell? Are Stark's already going to be down there? No, it was like just phrase. They kind of fucked us over. But it transitions to them bargaining for Harrenhal, which is kind of a shitty castle anyway. He does a good job potentially making a alliance here, but I don't know how powerful the Freys are at this point other than the crossing. So I don't know.
Well, they have
and then
both
that
towers,
leads
and
into the final scene.
they have both towers, and seemingly they're pretty strong at this point. I mean, they're probably
I just
not
mean like how many
as-
men they could offer, you know?
They make up a pretty good force when they do the fish feed.
Because what he's asking is not really the phrase. He's asking them to like, hey, can you bring your friends along? Like, you know, can you bring the other river lords along with you? And if you can do that, like, yeah, you know, Harrenhal, why not?
I like the hair headpiece that the Lady Frey was wearing. That's really all I got for this.
The table in the middle of the bridge. I guess that's
was
kind of a
confused about
power
that.
move.
What is
Like
that?
you have to make your vassals bring out this table. You'd think they would negotiate on either side of the bridge. That like if someone is crossing, you know, they would just walk to the other side and negotiate with them over there. But he's got a dragon, and
Well,
I
aren't they eating during this? What if
Yeah.
he literally showed up and this is how they take their lunch?
they just love to eat in the middle of the river.
That's kind of cute, though. Like that's how they eat their lunch every day. They have some poor servant throw out his back, carrying a table halfway across the bridge.
I
They get
just
set up.
really-
That was a heavy looking table.
I just really want to know, like, I need more context. I need to know why this isn't, like, was this a thing they did in Game of Thrones proper, or was it we just...
No.
table
I think
symbolism
both times
for-
that we had negotiating at the twins, it was like outside the twins. I don't remember.
No, it was in his hall. It was in Walder's hall.
But I mean, like, it wasn't on the bridge. Like, there was out front when Lady Stark was like, you know, kind of talking to them, and then she goes inside. But it was like, you know, it was outside on either castle. Like, I don't remember anything really happening on like the bridge.
No,
in
there's
the river.
never any negotiation like that, other than I guess the time that Brendan and Jamie did it at River Run.
But you know what? I noticed
On the portcullis.
Jace didn't say mayhaps.
True.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but this is a good move for him. He got some shit done. I like when he comes back to Rhaenyra and she knows what he did, and she kind of gives him props for it and is like, hey, good work, thank you. And then a minute later, she's sort of like, yeah, but you know, hey, you're kind of not listening to me, and that is a little shitty. But she's only sort of like half dresses him down. Because she's like, you're doing what I wish I could, and you know, I can't necessarily stop you from doing everything because it's what I would do. So I get that. And then the crazy I don't know, I love the dragon seed thing, but this is also where we get another reference that Sunfire is thought to be dead, which maybe that's just propaganda they're spreading while Sunfire heals, hopefully. But I do love how sneaky they are, where they're like, oh, you know, surely someone else could ride dragons, and they dismiss Rhaena because she tried to claim a dragon and it nearly killed her. I don't know when that was or who that was, but we didn't see it, right?
There's an amazing little piece of physical comedy for me when they're like a Tarly and his hands go up like
Yeah, when they're like a Tarly or a Malister, like, oh. And they're like, oh, it's a mad idea. Oh, but we have all of these records of birth. Like, at least they sort of acknowledge like this is probably a bad idea, but also, you know, we can do it. So
It's family tree time. I want a diagram on one of their desks.
that's right. I need a cloth. I need some sort of linen family tree. I want someone else, Corliss or somebody, like to come along and say, whoa, you guys are doing what? Like, hey, like dragons are Targaryens. Targaryens are dragons. Like, the power of dragons is kind of a big deal. Like, that's why we're in the middle of this. Like, you do have to think post-war what is going to happen if the wrong person claims one of these dragons.
And then Adam goes and claims a dragon.
Right? And he's like, well, obviously we're Valyrian, bro. Like, we're allowed to have dragons. We've always been friends of the dragons.
I suspect as soon as the first Highborn Lord gets burned alive by sea smoke, they'll be like, maybe we should let poor people do this first. Easier to control, less collateral damage.
Let one of the Pauls handle this.
I so want to see the dragon tryouts. Like, I just want to see a montage of people getting tossed and scorched, and I want to make it clear that this is not a simple thing that people can just do. But they put a call out, right, in the book. Like, they basically say, hey, anybody want to try to claim a dragon, at least on Dragonstone, right?
Yeah. Specifically on Dragonstone that they do it.
But I don't remember, how does Adam get his dragon?
I think he's just part of one of the.
He's a part of the sowing. Yeah, he's a part of the sowing of the seeds, the dragon seeds. He comes forward. Him and Alan both do. It's just Alan fails to claim. I think it's Grey Ghost or Silverwing. Silverwing is Stefan, I'm pretty sure, and then Grey Ghost is Alan, and both of them fail. It's just one of them dies.
I don't think we'll see Grey Ghost.
Yeah, I think it could be just rolled up into Silverwing rejecting 2 riders.
I think, Silverwing and Vermithor you'll see, and then
Sea Smoke for sure.
It wouldn't surprise me if Adam claims Sea Smoke separately, or that comes later. I'm not a couple episodes later or something. Because they're in different locations.
He's in the preview, Sea Smoke.
Oh, for next week?
Yeah.
I did not notice that.
I could also see Alan trying to claim Sea Smoke, failing, and then Adam claiming Sea Smoke. Sea Smoke.
Or maybe brothers claim together.
Cute.
I think the craziest part of the scene is when Rhaenyra is looking at a historical document of Visenya, and Jace has this line where he's like, that was a long time ago. Like, meaning, queens used to fly into battle with swords held aloft, but we don't do that in this civilized age.
Is that what he was talking? I wasn't sure what he was referencing. It's I don't know if she's the right comparison. I thought maybe it was to do with him.
No. I think it was to do with the fact that Visenya almost certainly poisoned her nephew and had him killed, and he's not necessarily with the whole kinslaying unless they're trying to kinslay him. It's more about the support for Maegor and not because she takes it as a rejection of her flying into battle, I think. Where he's meaning it as Visenya the person isn't someone you want to emulate.
Yeah, it wasn't clear to me what the angle was there. And they were both being kind of coy, and I mean it was good vibes. The mother and son, it was a healthy mother and son relationship in this
rare moment
in this scene, other than what we had with Damon earlier. But yeah, I mean, it's the dragon seeds. I was like, hell yeah! I want to see that. I want to see the process. I want to see people get roasted. I want them to make it difficult, and I just don't know where the hell Ulf White is right now. How or why he's getting out of the city. I mean, everyone's out. I can definitely see Hugh finding people can find a way out for sure. You bribe a gold cloak or whatever. But his wife at least mentions what, you gonna go to Rhaenyra? So it would be interesting if he shows up just saying, hey, I was, I have a skill at building these weapons and they didn't pay me. And if you'll pay me, I'm happy to work for you. And then just so happens to be like, oh, dragon. Well, I kind of have some dragon blood. You want to try it? If it's sort of incidental.
We'll see. I don't know how I feel about the in King's Landing dragon seeds compared to on Dragonstone dragon seeds.
Yeah, they need to get them out.
It's a little
quick.
odd.
And I don't know why Ulf would go. And the only thing I can see is that somehow like Rhaenyra announces like, hey, we have dragons on Dragonstone, and anyone that can claim one, come and claim one, and you'll get a lordship or something, which you wouldn't necessarily want to do, because then, you know, Alicent and everybody, the Greens, are going to know what you're doing, right? So that's the only thing I can think of, is that there's some sort of like rumor or decree that goes across the land, and the two of them, you know, make their way to Dragonstone, which I don't.
My
like.
worry is that it's going to be via Massaria. Like, you must spread the word to all the small folk and let them know that
I know several bastards in King's Landing.
Yeah, that shit.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that could be it.
We already have that one handmaiden plant in King's Landing. I wonder what they're going to use her for, except, you know, obviously chaos, but if there's any other roles.
Well, it's a ladder, and that's how she's going to get to the Red Keep, with the ladder of chaos.
I think it's going to be a Luther Largent throwing the gates open type of thing. That's what that's setting up, but I don't know.
Once we start talking about dragon seeds, I'm like, eh.
But
that's not fun. Dragon seeds, boring. I get it. I think the dragon seeds are the most exciting to me, because we get to see the process of claiming a dragon, and we get to see like it's actually kind of like the biggest mistake they make, or one of the biggest mistakes they make, is like going outside the family, and it comes back to bite them. But then hopefully we also get Nettles, which is kind of the best side characters in the whole story. So hopefully we will get her on the show. And that process, maybe that's a different process than what we're going to see with like the dragon blood, you know, dragon seeds claiming the dragons. Maybe she has no dragon blood. We don't know, right?
That is kind of the implication, at least in the book, that she wins her dragon by feeding it, basically.
Yeah, and maybe that means she does have some dragon blood, but maybe she doesn't. And I mean, Jace kind of foreshadows that as like, well, only the Valyrian, you know, only the lords of Valyria can ride dragons. He's like, yeah, that's kind of what we've always said, but like, really, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm very worried for Nettles being just completely cut from the show, and that makes me sad.
Same.
I think it makes sense to cut her from season 2. I think it would be really stupid not to include her. And it makes the most sense to wait until season 3, because you don't have to cast someone until season 3. You know, it saves on your budget. It gives you a reveal. It gives you a new character for that season, a significant new character. So, you know, I don't know.
Gives Damon somebody to talk to when he's out in the Riverlands again.
Somebody that exists.
He can just talk to Alice on the wind.
True, and also he can like have her be like, see, like, I'm not crazy, right? You're experiencing hallucinations too, right? In this place.
Like, you see that Alice Rivers person too, right? Who? No.
I need to leave.
Nettles, for me, is like, I don't mind the substitution personally, but she's such a popular character, and like replacing her with Rhaena does have some nice, like, it feels satisfying in certain ways, but like I kind of can't argue with the idea that it's just kind of like, well, there was one black girl and now there's another black girl, and it's like they're kind of the same.
Yeah, that's why I think that it would. I think that in this climate and the people who are making this show, I just don't think they would do that, because I mean they made the Valyrians black already, and now you're just gonna take another character and go, oh well, that black is as good as black. Like, I think that's what you would get a lot of comparisons from people, and you would get a lot of backlash, because it's a very popular character, and it's like she's like the only like character of color in the story, right?
Yeah, like at least specifically
like named
in the fire. In Fire and Blood, I guess the admiral of the Triarchy, not the crowd feeder, the guy that comes later.
Right.
But other than that,
there's gender swapped that character. Actually, I think they
did. Interesting.
I think.
Huh.
They cast that person?
Abigail something is playing some admiral of something, but I'm clearly very informed. So you know. Do your own research, people.
Wait. Abigail is in the YouTuber Abigail? No
yes,
way.
I think so, actually.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
Philosophy Tube is.
Oh God.
Okay, I have no idea what interview you're talking about, but I do know that we have 3 more episodes, and that's not a lot of time to get a lot of that done. Like, are we even going to see Otto again the rest of the year? Like Darren's mentioned, I don't think there's been any mention of casting.
Where the fuck is Darren?
It doesn't mean that Darren hasn't been cast and won't be in the scene, but we know that he exists.
I am waiting for
it may not be till next year.
Brown-haired, possible Targaryen, possible
Casey is Casey's on my theory. No, now I'm not into that theory because it would ruin the idea that this only happened after Viserys died.
I agree, yeah.
Still.
Darren the sleepy, Darren the latecomer.
Yeah, but with his blue dragonfire, I mean, pretty badass. Yeah, I think that getting rid of Nettles to me just doesn't make any sense, and everyone seems to think, oh, it's going to happen. I think just skipping it entirely makes more sense than trying to move that story to someone else. Like, I could see them not doing it and saying, oh, maybe we'll do it in season 3, and then maybe they do, maybe they don't. But it would be weird to give it to Rhaena, I think.
I agree with you, but I also think that the writing this season has been a little off. I feel like a lot of the scenes have been a little disjointed, and I think that's kind of, like when you had shows back in, I think it was like 2007 when the writer's strike was, where it was obvious that things were a mess.
I guess they did write a character sleeping with his own mother, so maybe.
And that's a product of the original script, right? But not having a writer on set means that you don't have somebody being like, okay, well, this is going to be teaming up with this, and so we need to have this kind of scene here, and that kind of coordination is missing from a lot of these episodes.
Okay, I've got a serious question here. I thought that they didn't get affected by the writer's strike.
That's what they said.
I know they weren't affected by the actors strike and stuff because it's all a separate
Michal, do you want to explain
thing.
this?
But
yeah, they weren't affected by the writer's strike in that they had technically finished writing the scripts for the season, and the studios were like, well, Ryan Condal isn't a writer. He's the showrunner, so he was working on.
Right, it was that
set.
Sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah. However, at least during the
that.
duration of the strike, I don't believe any other writers were there, and it would have been a violation of the strike for Condal to make any changes to the script while he was in his only a showrunner capacity. Yes.
I thought that they could kind of ad lib or change things like that
the
on the
actors
fly
could
as
do
long
whatever
as it
they
wasn't
wanted,
a writer.
but the actors could do it, but I don't think that the union would have been happy if Ryan Condal showrunner was rewriting Ryan Condal writers.
I just thought my impression was that shows had directors and showrunners kind of doing that. You would know better.
Yeah, but that's also considered scabbing. So I'm not telling you that it didn't happen, but especially in overseas.
I didn't pay that close of attention to it, so I just read a few articles last year.
So. The reason I was a little confused is the whole
anything that actually happened. So
and I thought I'm confused a little bit because of I remember reading something about was it British writers that weren't allowed to strike, or was it British actors? They literally couldn't strike
British
at the same
actors
time.
Couldn't. I know that because it was a separate. The unions and stuff are separate, and there were several of them that were like, "Yeah, we can't do anything." In solidarity, whatever. I remember that. But anyway, do you think it was really Helena there when Aemond was in the dark with the Iron Throne, or was that
first of
more
all,
fever dream?
And second of all,
threat guy.
No, it's fine. Greg made the same mistake, and I corrected him as well.
I don't know. I say it both ways. I can never decide. So,
what do you? I want to know what she means, as I do with almost everything she says.
Yeah, does she know, or is she just being sad and appearing out of nowhere?
Yeah, but also I want more. I want more.
And like, is this where the shit
Helena,
happens?
Aemond interaction. There was that whole thing about last season where they like thought that Helena's children could be Aemond's instead of Aegon's because of that one earlier scene of him saying that he would perform his duty if he had to take her as wife. That being said, I think that they could have had more. I know this family is very like passive, but I feel like we could have had some more conversation with Aemond and Helena.
Odd moment for me because I really wanted them to interact because they're so different. But like, was it worth the cost? Is a weird thing for her to say. I mean, obviously it's Helena, so it's a weird thing for her to say. But like, I don't get the sense that like if Aemond was asked, he would be like, "There was no cost. Like, I got exactly what I wanted. I'm just a little disappointed it's not as permanent as I thought it would be." You know, so is she is it a like slightly offline on a writing level, or is she talking about something else, or is this going to come back and like be resonant for other things? Because I just don't see Aemond having any guilt about this whatsoever.
Yeah, it just came and went so quick. I wasn't sure the message, and you're right. I mean, he seems fine. He's like, what are you talking about?
This week will be interesting to see if there is, again, I don't see it, but if there is any residual guilt or anything from Aemond. I guess it'll probably come out next week.
And speaking of next week, this is a good spot to move on. We have 3 more episodes next week. Episode 6, right? And then let's see. Oh, the week after that is Comic-Con. And then the finale's beginning of August. So yeah, that'll be interesting. I assume they'll have a presence at Comic-Con, so that'll be fun.
They are not on the schedule currently.
But I mean, like, there's probably like a booth, or there might be some stuff going on, or an off-site,
or whatever.
Yeah, maybe like an off-site thing that will be fun. Like, I haven't looked up yet to see what that is. Like, I'm hoping they'll have like some sort of like House of the Dragon thing, maybe in the park or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. But anyway, we will reconvene then. And I have gotten word from my Blackfyre spies that they will be recording soon, and we will hear their take on this, and hopefully we will also hear their oaths of fealty to DragonCast. So, all right, thank you everyone for joining me, and until then, keep riding that dragon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Dragon noise. I couldn't say this earlier because I was dealing with my Facebook, but it's astonishing to me that they broke the number 1 rule of A Song of Ice and Fire this week, which is that Bracken's bad, Blackwood's good. Always. Only.
I know. I thought about that too, because I was like, the Blackwoods are like the honorable ones, right?
Yeah, I'm like, they can't be doing something wrong. What?
Is this real, or am I missing something?
Well, I mean, Bloodraven is a Blackwood. He's not a good guy, but yeah.
Bloodraven's not a Blackwood. He's a bastard.
His mother is a Blackwood. I
don't sully the name of Blackwoods.
Are you a Blackfyre, Adam? Secret.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You see how I weaseled it out of him, just like that.
The gold dragon runs here, my friend. for our Blackfyre pretenders.
Why are they called Blackfyre? Why aren't they called like the Greens or Wolfcast? It doesn't make sense.
I'm good with
Oh
it.
no, it's great. It's great. I love it. It's just it doesn't. My OCD is like, no, that doesn't make sense.
I was like, no, we're definitely lazy. We could have gone like greens and blacks or something. I don't know. It would certainly fit, but that's not how we do things here. I guess is kind of a black council. I don't want them to have that. Those are Targaryens. So I don't know.
It's not normal to get like a colonoscopy a year, guys? Because I've been having one every year of my life.
That's not what that's called, and you need to go see someone.
Get like family history or
No.
Oh boy! All right. Are you here, Michal?
I'm here. I'm regretting
hear
it,
you.
but I'm here.
Oh no!
Why were there crickets? That felt like a shot at me.
Oh no, because you said when you were bored, so I was trying a
Okay,
thing.
I'm like, am I being
Now I have to
boring?
cut
Am I
out the
being
thing.
too quiet?
No, listen to the episode. Damn it!
Way to go,
I
Adam.
thought it was an accident actually, and I was
You
like, oh my
have to
god, I feel
prepare
so
me.
bad. I feel so. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I should have known it would be you.